All right, welcome, everybody. Justice is a process here, and I'm coming to you with a special presentation tonight. And this case is going to be one that's going to stick with you. And we're bringing you a sentencing hearing today that absolutely is a tragedy. Now, this case originates back in October 2023 is when this occurred. I've got a little montage here, some clips, some news clips to give you a background on the case if you're not familiar with it. But it's regarding young Prince McCree. He was a 5-year-old child, and he was unfortunately unalived by a family friend living in his basement whom he trusted implicitly, a 27-year-old and a 16-year-old. Now, this 16-year-old was pretty much on a crime spree, and the 27-year-old failed to act, failed to intervene here. So the 27-year-old is who's getting sentenced because he's pled guilty in the case. But anyways, let's roll the background here. And then when that's done, we'll come back and we'll talk. So let's go ahead and pull that up, guys, and take a look at this.
Sad update in the disappearance of a 5-year-old from Milwaukee. Police now investigating Prince McCree's disappearance as a homicide. His body was found inside a dumpster this morning on Valete Street near Holly Road. 2 people have now been arrested in connection to his death. Our Bruce Harrison has been following this story. He brings us the very latest. Bruce, just awful.
For hours this morning, police had this block taped off as they investigated a dumpster where the body of a child had been found.
It's senseless and stupid. Honestly, it shouldn't have happened.
Diallo Fuller was nearby catching the bus. Fuller says he understands the pain, losing 2 infants of his own.
Honestly, it hurts. You know, I deal with it every day. The pain, just I try to keep moving, keep going. As far as just trying to better my life, better myself.
By noon, family and police had confirmed Prince was the child in the dumpster. The little boy's grandmother, off camera, says they'd been searching, waiting until they learned the terrible news. Onlookers shared their thoughts as police wrapped up their investigation at the scene.
It's very sad, disturbing to the community. I'm heartbroken. I have nieces, nephews, and cousins out here that lives in Milwaukee. I'm very concerned about their safety.
I have nephews that are that, years of age, and nothing like that should be happening.
15-year-old boy accused in the crime appeared in separate courtrooms today. The boy and the 2 suspects all lived in the same house at 54th and Meineke in Milwaukee. The child disappeared last Wednesday, and police found his body the next day in a dumpster at 55th and Valete. And that's where 12 News' James Stratton joins us live. James, the specifics of this case are so disturbing.
They are, Joyce. Police say Eric Mendoza and David Patura beat and strangled 5-year-old Prince McCree. They put his body in garbage bags, that criminal complaint says, and dumped him in this dumpster here. You can see even in the snow, that memorial still at this dumpster at 55th and Valete. And as the pair were in court today, the pain from McCree's family is still very much visible.
You did this to my baby?
The pain from a father lashing out at a teenager charged in the brutal killing of his son.
You broke us, Eric.
15-year-old Eric Mendoza, charged with killing 5-year-old Prince McCree, sat with his head down in court. 12 News cannot show you the video of McCree's father or Mendoza due to a judge's order in juvenile court. A criminal complaint says last Wednesday, Mendoza and 27-year-old David Patura choked McCree, beat him lifeless with a golf club, barbell, and a bird bath, bound his body with duct tape, and threw him in a dumpster. The state laying out the evidence against them.
Mr. Mendoza and the co-defendant are caught on numerous different surveillance video systems, carrying and ultimately discarding the body of PRM. Mr. Mendoza gives a full confession. That confession is verified by the investigation of the Milwaukee Police Department.
The defense, requesting a lower bond, said Mendoza has good grades and will show up to court if he posts bond.
He's a 15-year-old child who's facing very serious accusations, as the state has alleged. However, he is a child.
Appearing in adult court, Patura, who had little to say.
Do you understand those potential penalties, sir?
Yes.
The pair lived in the same house as McCree, but are not related. The complaint not giving a motive for the murder, but says defendant Mendoza never liked McCree and discussed wanting to kill him.
Separate hearings, James. Mendoza and Ventura. Did either of them enter a plea in court today?
And Joyce, neither entered a plea. Both will be held on a $5,000 cash bail. Also, if they do post bail, they can't have any contact with McCree's family or each other or any potential witnesses. Something to note, everyone we talked to both in and out of court this morning all described this as one of the most heinous criminal complaints that they've ever read.
Last week, a teenager and a man are now charged in the homicide of 5-year-old Prince McCree. McCree was found in a dumpster after being reported missing. A new criminal complaint says McCree was brutally beaten to death by a 15-year-old boy and a 27-year-old man who lived in his home. Both have been charged with multiple counts, including felony homicide charges. The CBS 58's Adam Reif is live in the studio to break down this new information for us. Adam?
Natalie, this evening I spoke with the family of 5-year-old Prince McCree. Too distraught to go on camera, they are devastated while trying to process the 5-year-old's murder. As the community grieves Prince's death, we're learning more about what the defendants did to him and the other stabbings one of those defendants admitted to.
For someone to do this to a kid, it's not right.
5-year-old Prince McCree was first choked in his basement, then beaten multiple times before the two defendants bound his body in trash bags and put him in a dumpster, according to a criminal complaint. 27-year-old David Piatura is one of the defendants. The other is 15. We are not naming him. McCree's mother reported him missing October 25th from the home they share with both defendants. The 15-year-old said he choked and beat Prince, then hit him with a golf club. Piatura did not stop him. They put his body in a garbage bag and kept beating him. Surveillance video showed them carrying the bag to a dumpster near 56th and Vliet. On Monday, a woman named Jackie drove by at a loss for words.
Just pray. That's all you can do.
Jackie does not know Prince's family, but her son was murdered last January.
And I feel for the mother, the siblings, whoever else that's involved in this. It's just sad.
Not knowing what else to do, Jackie bought a Christmas tree to leave at the scene. This dumpster where Prince McCree's body was found has now become a makeshift memorial with toys, candles, and flowers, all honoring the 5-year-old child. But this location is not the only one where the 15-year-old defendant admitted to committing a violent crime. The 15-year-old said 2 days earlier he stabbed 3 people within an hour, all of them apparently random targets. Near 42nd and North, he ran up behind a man and stabbed him in the back. At 35th and Center, he stabbed a man in the shoulder from behind. Then he stabbed a woman in the back of the neck at a bus stop near Center and Sherman. To investigators, the 15-year-old said he, quote, wanted to stab someone badly, and he, quote, admitted to feeling a rush from stabbing each victim. 2 days later, he allegedly attacked and killed McCree. Prince's family members told me on the phone every day is getting worse and worse as they learn new information about this murder. They said his mother would not let people she did not trust around her children, and so she never saw this coming.
People accused of killing a young boy on Milwaukee's west side pleaded guilty in court today. Prosecutors say 27-year-old David Piatura, along with 16-year-old Eric Mendoza, beat 5-year-old Prince McCree to death back in October and then discarded his body. That was found in a dumpster the next day. Piatura pled guilty today, and his next court date for sentencing is set for July 26th.
So, as you can see, absolutely devastating case, and just an absolute tragedy. I don't think there's any other way to put it. It's just unspeakable. And with being a father of a 5-year-old child myself, I just can't even imagine what this family's going through right now. So first off, I want to say thoughts are with you guys. I know today, obviously, or what we're about to watch is a big step in getting justice for your son, but it will never bring him back, which makes this all the more difficult. But as you see, David Piatura, he is he's not the one that was the lead in this, and you're going to watch the hearing. So, there's going to be a lot more talked about on this, but he was the 27-year-old. He was the older of the two assailants. But what he did is unspeakable. And it also goes to show you that, you do have an obligation when things are happening in front of you, especially if you're the older one in the room. I've told my oldest son this. You have an obligation to stop what's going on, step up, and make sure that you know, the younger guy, the younger individuals in the room are taken care of. If you know, your participation is the same level by failing to act, and in this case, he partook in it, and it's unspeakable that he did, because what he is alleged to have done with beating the child with a barbell, dropping a 70-pound concrete bird feeder, and hitting him with a golf club, he participated in all of that, and it's just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, David lived in their basement. He was renting from the family. You know, he was a trusted person around that child. So it even tells you, you've got to be paying attention. You cannot just trust anyone around your child, even people that you think are are trusted. Now, the other thing that happened here too is the police failed to put an Amber Alert out when he was missing, because he said that he hadn't been missing long enough, and he had not, and he was too young, you know, and he hadn't been missing long enough. Now, the death here has actually brought into effect a law. It's called the Prince Act, which expands the missing persons alerts for children, and basically says that there is a new alert. It's a purple alert, and children under the age of 10, if they're missing for any amount of time, they're going to put that out, and they're going to put the Amber Alert out. And in this case, he hadn't been missing long enough. The Amber Alert didn't get put out. Not that, given what happened here, it may not have saved his life, because by the time he was missing, again, this was done inside his home. So this was not a situation where he was snatched up or taken off the street. But it's absolutely atrocious here, that the police didn't put an Amber Alert out for him, because, you know, what if it could have saved his life, you know? So this did, you know, that is something that anytime there's a death, you're looking for something to come out of it. That came out of it. Now, going into the sentencing here, David Patora, he's the one who pleads guilty. He's a 27-year-old. And coming in, just so you understand, the defense, he has pled guilty and thrown himself on the mercy of the court. Now, the idea here from his defense attorney is that since he's pleading guilty, that that the defense attorney is going to ask the judge that he be allowed to apply for extended supervision. He would have lifetime supervision, so he would never be free, but he would have the ability to apply for what's called extended supervision, or we would call it parole in other states, after 40 years. Doesn't mean he'll get it. He's 27. He would be 67. That's what the defense is asking for. That's what they're fighting for. The state obviously is asking for life in prison. There is no availability of the death penalty in Wisconsin, where this occurred. So as a result, the worst he can get is life with no parole. So that is where we're coming at. That's to set the stage. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and start the sentencing hearing, and then I'll be back to talk to you after it's done.
So this is your you need to sign here, so you can't go until you're done with your sentence.
Just as a reminder to everybody, please have your phones on silent in your pockets. No usage.
Just says you have to. Thank you. I've already filed your application. Thanks so much. You are appealing. It says you are appealing. No, I'm saying I'm gonna have to.
Also, we keep in touch over the time.
Well, you're gonna need. Then I'll get in touch with you. Oh, don't worry, I'm not. And this is just your 275 days credit. Right, you've been in 275 days. We're ready, Judge, whenever. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's call the case, please. State of Wisconsin versus David Pietura, 23 CF 4961. Appearances, please.
Matthew Torbenson and Mallory Davis appear for the state. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Attorney Russell Jones, on behalf of the defendant, Mr. Patura. Mr. Patura is present in court, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
All right, well, good afternoon to you, Attorney Torbenson. Good afternoon to you, Attorney Davis. Good afternoon to you, Attorney Jones, and good afternoon to you, Mr. Pietura. We are here this afternoon for a sentencing hearing. Previously, Mr. Pietura pled guilty to 1 count of first-degree intentional homicide. The other 2 counts contained in the information were dismissed and read in. Having said that, I ordered a pre-sentence investigation. Did the state receive a copy of the pre-sentence?
Yes.
Do you have any additions, corrections, deletions, or comments that you would like to make about the pre-sentence investigation?
Comments at the appropriate time, but no corrections or deletions.
Thank you. Attorney Jones, on behalf of you and Mr. Pietura, did you have the opportunity to see a copy of the pre-sentence?
I did. I also furnished a copy to my client. We don't have any changes or corrections, Judge, and we have no objection to it as filed.
All right. Mr. Pietura, did you see a copy of the pre-sentence investigation report?
Yes.
Do you have any additions or corrections you'd like to make?
No.
All right. Then the court will approve and accept the statements made in the Department of Corrections pre-sentence investigation report and incorporate them into the record. In addition to that pre-sentence, I also received and reviewed a variety of letters from the family of Prince McCree, the victim in this case. Did you also have the opportunity to see all of those letters?
Yes.
And defense, did you see them as well?
We did, Your Honor, yes. Everything filed.
All right. Was there anything else that was filed that I missed?
Not from the state.
No.
All right, thank you. Then will the state be ready to proceed to sentencing at this time?
Yes.
Defense, are you ready?
We are.
Mr. Pietura, is there any reason why we should not go forward with sentencing here in court today, sir?
No.
All right, then I'll hear from the state first, please.
When considering the serious nature of this defendant's offense, this defendant's character, and the need to protect the public, the state is asking this court to hand down the largest sentence that is available under the law. The sentence that is reserved for the worst of the worst offenders this community sees. And that is life without the possibility of parole, without ever being released. Mr. Pietura may not be a monster, but on October 25th of 2023, he committed monstrous acts. He participated in a brutal and heinous beating of an innocent 5-year-old child. I want to start off by talking about Prince, that 5-year-old child. Prince, at the age of 5, is the most innocent of innocents. He had virtually his entire life in front of him. He loved Spider-Man. He had a smile larger than life. He brought joy to anyone he was around. And though Mr. Pietura found it to be an annoyance whenever Prince would come down into the basement where Mr. Pietura lived, I hope Mr. Pietura sits back and thinks just for a second about why a 5-year-old child would do that. 5-year-old Prince went into that basement likely because he looked up to Mr. Pietura, because he trusted Mr. Pietura, because it was a place, his home, where he should have been safe. The basement was a place where the young men in the residence hung out, and Prince wanted to be with them. That is the only crime that Prince committed. That's the only thing he did wrong. He wanted to spend time with you. On October 25th of 2023, after spending some time with his mother, Prince wandered into the basement. It's difficult to know exactly what happened step for step because Mr. Patura has made so many different statements about what took place in that basement. The statement in the pre-sentence investigation report is minimizing, it's self-serving. It attempts to excuse Mr. Patura for the role that he played in the homicide of 5-year-old Prince. But make no mistake about it, Mr. Patura played a significant role in the silencing and the extinguishing of this child's life. It was shortly after 6 p.m. on October 25th, 2023, when the family began looking for Prince. Prince's mother, Jordan, went to Mr. Patura, looked Mr. Patura in the eyes, and asked Mr. Patura if he had seen her son. Knowing what happened, knowing what he did, knowing what the co-defendant did, he looked a mother in the eyes and lied to her. It wouldn't be the first or last time that he lied that day. After the entire residence was searched, the family and friends started searching the neighborhood. Knowing what he had done, knowing exactly where Prince's body was, Mr. Patura participated in the search with the family and friends. They searched for hours. The City of Milwaukee Police Department was notified. They performed a grid search of a neighborhood. They expanded the grid search of that neighborhood. The City of Milwaukee Police Department put as many resources and people power as possible into trying and finding Prince McCree. The same way this defendant looked at the mother, Jordan, and said, "I don't know where your son is." He looked at the City of Milwaukee Police Department detectives and officers on scene and said, "I don't know where Prince is." Sensitive Crimes Detective Buffman would walk through the house, and he would be the first individual to notice the blood in the basement, the significant amount of blood in this defendant's room, even after extraordinary efforts were made to clean and wipe away the blood in the scene. The investigation and resources put into this case by the Milwaukee Police Department are it's difficult to put into words the effort, the time, and the amount of care they put into this investigation. It's one of the best investigations I've ever seen by law enforcement. While the detectives are on scene after noticing the blood in the basement and clearing the house because of the blood in the basement and recognizing that they probably have a crime scene on their hands, they asked this defendant what he did during the morning and daytime of October 25th, 2023. The defendant claimed to have a foggy memory, but he indicated that he and the co-defendant walked to the Jacobus Park area. In response to that, Again, excellent police work. The detectives asked if they could see his cell phone and look at his cell phone because the detectives knew if he had his location services on, they could see where he was that day. And what they saw and what they observed is he went in the exact opposite direction. That the location would put him within less than a block of where Prince's body was ultimately recovered. This would be at least the third time Mr. Pertura lied during the course of the investigation. This is the lie that would land him in the custody of the Milwaukee Police Department. Mr. Pertura was questioned by detectives, and for 40 minutes, he denied knowing anything about Prince's disappearance or death. And then he broke. His words to the detectives were, "It wasn't me. I didn't want any of this." And perhaps the most ironic words he said, "I loved that kid." Mr. Pertura talked about how he went to use the bathroom in the morning of October 25th, 2023, upstairs, and came back downstairs to his room to the site of the co-defendant choking 5-year-old Prince. As Mr. Pertura is relaying this information to the detectives, he discusses what he's observing. The co-defendant choking a 5-year-old child as though he's being faced with a significant moral conundrum. Do I stop the co-defendant from this choking, or do I help him? That's an easy answer for anyone in our community. For Mr. Pertura, it was a moral conundrum, a difficult choice to make, one that he proved to choose wrong. He describes seeing the co-defendant not only choking Prince, but beating Prince. Then, after doing that, he describes the co-defendant taking a golf club and repeatedly striking Prince in the head and body with that golf club. Significantly, in that first questioning, he admits that it was his idea to bag up the body of Prince. Prince's arms were tied together with black duct tape. His legs were tied and bound with black duct tape. Rags were shoved in his mouth and then secured in place with clear packing tape. And then this defendant admits that he and the co-defendant walk over a mile where they discard Prince's body as though it's an utter piece of garbage in a dumpster. The City of Milwaukee Police Department worked to recover every single piece of surveillance video possible of that walk. I'm going to ask my colleague to play some of that video in a moment. The first video this court is going to see includes the laughing and playful sounds of children on a playground as they walk by. In this third video clip that we're going to play, you're going to see the co-defendant actually place the body on the ground. Both this defendant and the co-defendant take a break, and then this defendant picks up the body and they resume their walk. The next video that we're going to play, you can observe the body of Prince being put inside a dumpster, with both defendants making efforts to then cover it up with the other garbage in the dumpster. And the last video we're going to play with regards to the co-defendants is both co-defendants walking back past a playground of children playing. I contrast how this defendant and the co-defendant treated the body of Prince with how the City of Milwaukee Police Department treated it when they recovered the body. If this defendant is going to get credit for anything, he does give credit for at least telling the City of Milwaukee Police Department where the body of Prince was, after it had been brutalized, after it had been desecrated by being thrown in a garbage can. I received a phone call from a detective shortly after the body was recovered inside the dumpster behind a bar close to 54th and Hadley, and this is the video of the recovery of the body. There were numerous police officers and detectives on scene when the body was recovered.
Did you? Yeah. Does that look like a body? Yeah. 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 Hey, we found him. Hey, we found him. He's gonna be in there. Thank you. It feels like a.
It's just that heavy?
Yeah. It's pretty solid, and that's a great garbage.
Oh.
Do you want me to open it?
It's probably several. They said several garbage bags.
Okay. Yeah, gloves. You just want to see if it feels like a body. I mean, just.
That's what they were
It
trying to
feels like
pull
it.
it up.
It feels like
It's
it.
just heavy.
Do you want me to kind of just rip it open a little bit? Just a little. As small as you can. You want me to hop it? No.
Where else? Always use them.
I'll get in there. Oh, son of a bitch.
You got gloves on, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's blood.
Yep. Just confirm it. You got go all the way in. How many bags?
A lot. Yep, that's him.
Okay. Hang on. I gotta take a picture of them. We want done. Thank you. All of this. Good job.
There's photos that I'm going to ask the court to review of the body of Prince shortly after it was recovered. But opposed to this defendant and the co-defendant and how they treated the body of Prince, the detective who called me about the recovery talked about how every single detective and officer that was present after Prince's body was lifted up and brought out stood in a moment of silence. They recognized the solemnity of the moment. They recognized the enormity of the moment for a family, for a community, for the life of Prince that was lost. We don't always talk about the vicarious trauma that is experienced on the cases that we see and handle, but this is a case that has hit everybody who has worked on it in a significant way. The photos that this court may look at are marked with exhibit stickers because they were used in the preliminary hearing of the co-defendant. The body camera of the officer who recovered the body of Prince testified at that preliminary hearing. He became emotional. He talked about never seeing anything like this in his entire career and hoping to never experience anything like this again in his career. To see the depravity and the inhumanity of what was done to this little boy. The detectives who interviewed Mr. Patura the first time went back and talked to him a second time. They had a simple question for Mr. Patura. We think you're more involved than what you originally told us. You should tell us the truth. That was all the detectives asked in the second interview. In response, Mr. Patura admitted that he played a significant role in the beating and death of Prince McCree. The defendant claimed that it started off the way he originally described, as the co-defendant choking Prince on this defendant's bed until blood began to flow from Prince's nose. Prince would eventually go unconscious from this choking, and then both defendants worked to bind Prince's body. As they are binding Prince's body with that black duct tape, Prince starts to regain consciousness. And it is this defendant who starts to punch him repeatedly in the head. When that didn't quiet Prince, this defendant grabbed a 30-pound barbell and dropped it on Prince's head. Prince weighed 43 pounds at the time of his death. This 30-pound dumbbell that was dropped on his head would hit him so hard that the imprint, the numbers from the weight were on his head at autopsy. Believing that he was dead at that point, they gagged Prince, they grabbed multiple garbage bags, and they put his body in those garbage bags. But Prince started to whimper again. The defendant's response to Prince whimpering inside those garbage bags was to grab a golf club and repeatedly strike Prince, taking turns with the golf club, hitting him in the head, the abdomen, the genitals. Within the pre-sentence investigation report, when this defendant attempts to minimize, I want one thing to be clear. His DNA is on the handle of the golf club. The most DNA that is recovered from the handle of that golf club is this defendant's DNA. He was an active participant in the murder, in the beating, in the death of this 5-year-old child. They beat Prince's body so bad with the golf club that there was blood spilled onto the floor, that the body had to be secured in more garbage bags. They took and carried Prince's body outside, and when he was outside, Prince started to whimper again. In response to this, this defendant admitted to police that he grabbed the pedestal for a concrete bird feeder and dropped it on Prince's head. This concrete bird bath pedestal weighed 78 pounds. Almost double what Prince weighed. Prince didn't make any sounds after that. Then the discussion between the two became of where do we discard the body so that it's never found. At autopsy, Prince had multiple blunt force injuries. He had lacerations and abrasions and contusions to the head. Some are in his hairline that go all the way to the skull. I have been handling child abuse cases since 2009, child homicide since 2012. I have never had a case involving a hinge fracture to the base of the skull. The base of his skull was fractured because of the things that were dropped on his head. He had fractures to the right parietal bone of the skull and the frontal bone of the skull, subdural hemorrhaging on the brain, subarachnoid hemorrhaging on the brain, contusions to his actual brain, a fracture to his clavicle, hemorrhaging in his lungs, contusions to his lungs, hemorrhaging of his mesentery, and scattered hemorrhaging in his intestines, all of which are the result of blunt force trauma to his abdomen. Significant, massive blunt force trauma.
We're going to take a break. To the victim advocate, I know that this is the victim's father. He needs to step out and have a break. I can see the man needs to have a break. We're going to take 5 minutes and give him a break because he can't listen to this anymore. Well, we are taking a break. It was my understanding from the state that you had some photographs that you wanted to show to me. Perhaps I could use this time to look at those photographs. Please show them to defense counsel if you wanted to see them. Lizzie, can you give these back to the state, please? Thank you. Okay. No, but I have a gallery mic. I'm not letting him in here. He's not coming in here. No, I don't have a portable mic, but I have a gallery mic, and he can stand by the door and talk if he feels it. Okay, Matt, let's bring them in, and I'm not going to start the gathering mic until after the comments are done, okay? Thank you. Yes. If you could inquire of the advocate as to whether or not that the victim's father is ready to come back in, it'd be great. Thank you. Okay, let's bring him back in here. Okay, he's back. Okay. All right. Thank you for taking a break. Let's continue, please.
In making a ruling in this particular case, the medical examiner ruled the cause of death as a result of multiple blunt force injuries to the head and the body, but also with another significant contributing factor being asphyxiation. And that is because of that rag that was shoved down his mouth and throat and then taped in. Prince's death was not a short death. It was not a death without pain. It was not a death without suffering. It's difficult to fathom a worse way. He had no chance. The one chance that he did have was when Mr. Patura walked in the room and saw the co-defendant choking him. The one chance he had was this man, who is 6'3", well over 200 pounds, stopping the 16-year-old co-defendant and saying, "Enough. That's not how you treat a 5-year-old child." That was Prince's one chance. Which goes back to that moral conundrum that this defendant described. That's why this case is a life without case. Because what should be such an easy choice for every other member of our society was a difficult choice for this man, and a choice that he chose wrongly on. Within the pre-sentence investigation report, there are a couple of things that this defendant does that are utterly offensive. He criticizes the parents of the victim. He talks about how he tried to make attempts to report the co-defendant's behavior. But the most troubling aspect of this defendant's statements is how much he minimizes the role he played. in the death, the homicide of Prince. His statements to the pre-sentence investigation writer are that he observed Eric standing in the basement, the co-defendant, and that he asked him to go for a walk, that he noticed a puddle of a red substance on the floor but didn't pay much attention to whatever this red substance is in his own room, grabbed his phone, saw another puddle of red, and then he claims that by the time he went upstairs, Prince's body is already in a bag, bagged up, ready to go. That in this short time that he went to use the bathroom, a 16-year-old brutally murdered, tied up, bound, and gagged, and then bagged up Prince and carried the body upstairs. The story that he tries to spin and sell within the pre-sentence investigation report defies logic, it defies common sense. We know it not to be true. The reason why he says it is because he's trying to escape his responsibility for exactly what he's here for today. He says he's convinced by the 16-year-old co-defendant to go on this walk, and that it's the 16-year-old co-defendant that tells him when they're on the walk, we're both going down for this because you're helping me now. This court had the opportunity to watch the two interviews of this defendant conducted by the City of Milwaukee police detectives. What is abundantly clear in those interviews is this defendant, Mr. Patura, is smart. He's an intelligent individual. A 16-year-old co-defendant is not going to deceive him into believing he is now involved in this homicide for taking the body to a dumpster, other than helping discard the body. Yet that's what he's trying to spin and sell within the pre-sentence investigation report. And it says something about his character. It's a positive thing that Mr. Patura has no prior record, but there is a significant amount of evidence about who he is and who his true character is. To look a mother in the face and lie, to look the police in the face and lie, to minimize in the pre-sentence investigation report, to blame the parents of the victim. Those are all incredibly poor signs of character. When it comes to the need to protect the public, there is a need for specific deterrence and punishment in this case. This is one of the most heinous cases this community has seen to a young, innocent child. It shocked the conscience of this community, it shocked the conscience of the nation. For that, this defendant is responsible. There is a need for general deterrence. The children of our community are our most precious resource. A mother and a father have lost a son. Siblings have lost a brother. A family has lost Prince. This community has lost the potential of his life and what it could have been. We will never know. Prince will never go to school. You'll never participate in organized sports, go to college, learn to drive, do so many of the activities that we take for granted on a daily basis. He will never get to experience because of this defendant. Your Honor, for all the reasons before the court, the state is respectfully requesting that this court hand down the maximum sentence under Wisconsin law. We're asking this court to sentence this defendant to life without the possibility of parole. Based on the severity of this offense, based on the heinous, barbaric beating that this defendant handed down, based on the desecration of this young child's body, based on the utter depravity, we respectfully request that you follow the state's recommendation and sentence this defendant to life.
Thank you. Attorney Jones, are there any of the family members who would like to make a statement today, Attorney Torbenson, before we move on to the defense?
There are a few family members that wish to address the court. They all will make very short statements to the court.
I limit it to 5 family members, and they have about 3 minutes apiece, given this afternoon's timing. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm going to have you sit at the state's table. Pull the microphone close to you. I believe you are Prince's mother, but I would ask that you please tell me your full name, and I want you to spell it for the record, and then you can make your short statement, okay? Thank you.
Jordan Barger, Jordanbarger.
What would you like to say, ma'am?
My son was such a joy. He was always happy. He always had a smile on him. He always loved to meet new people, make new friends, and that's what he did. He made a friend, a best friend. Every day after school, mommy, can I go by DJ? Can I go by DJ? Please? Mommy, please? DJ's my best friend. There's times where he even called his own dad DJ. I just don't understand how my son cared and loved for somebody that didn't care and love for him. That's what hurts. He was all about DJ when he first met him. DJ loved to spoil him. Even all the other kids with snacks and always played with them. He was always nice to my baby. My baby loved him. And to know that all this happened, I just don't know how he can just sit there and say he loved my son, knowing he didn't and he hurt him.
Thank you for being here. I'm sorry for your loss, ma'am. You can please step back into the gallery. Who is next?
Your Honor, if it's okay with the court, we're going to have the father address the court, but from the gallery.
And he will. I have unmuted the microphone in the gallery. Sir, if you want to stand up and if you can come by the door here, by where the deputy is standing. There's a microphone in the ceiling. You can't see it because it's kind of behind you and above you, but it's got a green light on. And if you would be so kind to tell me your full name, please. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Deron McCree. Okay. And you are the father of Prince, is that right? All right. And Mr. McCree, what would you like to tell me about your son?
I'd like to say that Prince was very bright. He loved people. And he didn't deserve this to happen. All he wanted to do is go play play video games with this guy that all he did for his life was play video games. Every day, all day, in the basement, play video games, which kids love. My kid loves to play video games. And for him to say that he always watched my child, he know that's a lie. My child was never left in this cousin, never. So him saying all this other stuff, I wish he could just look at me. I wish I could get close to him.
No, I know you can't, sir. This is terribly upsetting, but you cannot.
It's a wish.
I understand, sir. Address your remarks to the court, please, okay? All right, I appreciate your remarks today, Mr. McCree. Who is next? Good afternoon, ma'am. What is your name, please?
My name is Lisa Casey. I am Prince McCree's aunt, and everybody's focused everywhere. I want to focus on who.
We need to spell your name first,
Oh, sorry.
okay?
Lisa Casey.
All right. And talk slowly, because I know you've written down notes. Thank you for doing that. But sometimes when people read from their notes, they go really fast, okay? Thank you.
So everyone's focus is everywhere, and I want to focus on who my nephew was, because even in the midst of tragedy, it's his bright light that brought us joy and brings us the happiness and peace even to this day. I know the 5 characteristics when I think of my nephew. I think of how loyal he was. Most children don't want to go with you everywhere or do anything, but anywhere I went, anywhere I want to go. TT, can I come with you? He didn't. Oh, sorry. TT, can I come with you? And he didn't care where I was going. He didn't care what I was doing. He just wanted to be there. He loved people. He was caring, compassionate, kind, and very energetic. It's sad when one Wednesday my nephew was headed to church with me and living his best life, and then the next Wednesday I'm headed to church and I'm finding out he's missing. I don't know how to grasp my head around that, but I understand that he was a good person and he loved people and he always wanted to make friends. And maybe the defendant didn't view him as a friend, but my nephew apparently did. That just speaks to the heart he had compared to the heart he had. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Miss Casey, for being here. If you'd step back into the gallery, that would be great. Thanks. Good afternoon. Please tell me your name.
Stacy Jones, STACYJONES.
And you gave me a letter that I already reviewed in the process of the preparation for today's case. Is that correct?
No, that's my sister.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm Princess Grandma.
Okay.
That's
all
his
right.
auntie. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Could you tell me what you'd like to say, Miss Jones?
Okay, I just want to start out by saying who Prince was. Prince was passionate, phenomenal, persuasive, and perfection. He was radiant, resilient, remarkable, receptive. He was important, impactful, intelligent, inspirational, and inviting. He was nice, noble, neat, nifty, and noble. He was cheerful, clever, compassionate, creative, and confident. He was excellent, exceptional, entertaining, honest, extraordinary, ecstatic, eloquent, and endearing. And then I just want to say how this has impacted my family. We are sad, confused, broken, lost, miserable, anguished, pained, distressed, tormented, emotional roller coasters, and we also feel betrayed because we trusted David around Prince. As we look for Prince, David joined in on our search. When I arrived from Illinois, as I searched David's room looking for Prince, the words out of David's mouth still bothers me today. He said, "Your children are trying to fight me, saying I did something to Prince," when all the time he helped her Prince and threw him in the garbage like he was trash. So to say how this has impacted my family, I would say drastically. And I got one more thing I want to read, but I want to show my picture too, okay? Do you think I can?
Yeah, there's a picture of Prince's body that they would like you to observe if you're okay with that. It's from the burial. It's in the coffin.
Oh, okay, all right.
it's all right.
I did observe a whole lot of MPD photographs already. Please show it to defense counsel first.
I can just leave it alone. It won't take me long. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Jones, for sharing that photograph with me.
What she say? Okay.
What would you like to say to conclude your remarks, ma'am?
Okay. I wrote this. It's called a life sentence. You chose life. You chose a life sentence for my family. And you helped to kill Prince and to take him away for life. A life sentence my children and grandchildren will not have a chance to grow, talk, play, learn for, or even see Prince because of the life sentence you helped decide for our family. There will only be stories. They will hear about a great, smart, and intelligent little 5-year-old that only loved everyone, loved to play with his brothers and sisters, and couldn't wait for his cousins to come over. It saddens me to say that the love he had for playing video games, which he thought he was in the company of someone he could trust, cost him a life sentence from her. I know God was there with him as the devil was there with you. The devil is a big influencer and will use people to do things such as take a little precious 5-year-old and beat him with a bird bath or barbell, tie him up, bound his mouth so he can't speak, holler, ask for help, which caused him to be scared, cry, scream, and wonder what he did so bad that the people he trusted would hurt him so bad. But let me inform you that this life sentence from earth has backfired. Prince is now living in heaven. No more pain, no more sicknesses, no more worry. But the devil set you up for a life sentence on earth. And I pray God have mercy on your soul. Judge, if you can seriously think about the sentence you give David, we stand here with the life sentence on earth, brokenhearted, lost, and sad, confused. All we have left are memories of our little hero at 5 years old who managed to take a 27-year-old that wants to hurt children off the street. So no more children will be hurt by him. Please never let him out. God put us here for a reason, and Prince had to give his life to save other children. Please don't let his life go in vain. My family and I can live this life sentence, not having to worry or wonder if David's life sentence will end. Life means not 20 years. My children are young, and also my grandchildren will only be about 20 to 25. Please don't set them up for what David did. This is something that they may not never forget about. To let David out will be hard for them to live with. So I know we have to live this life sentence forever. And if fairness has anything to do with this, please sentence David to life without parole. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, ma'am. You can step back into the gallery.
We have one more family member, Your Honor.
All right.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon. What is your name, please?
My name is Charlotte, Charlotte. Last name Jones, Jones.
And
My
what's your
relationship to Prince is I'm his aunt. His father is my nephew.
Please proceed, ma'am.
All right. I wrote a poem, and it's called Another Chance. Another chance. I was 5 years old. I was a 5-year-old child upon waking on October 25th, 2023. And all I wanted to do was play video games. Another chance. You never gave me another chance to be a son, brother, grandson, nephew, or even a kindergarten classmate. However, after all these relationships, you want to have another chance. Another chance. You will still have access to your mother at 27, a grown man. You can write, call, may even get a hug on a visit. But me, a 5-year-old child, you took all my choices away. Another chance. You took me and threw me away in the garbage, hopefully to never be found again. My short legacy you threw away, but now you're requesting another chance? Wow. Another chance. You tore my family apart, but now asking for mercy. You're asking the court to give you something that you took from me, a 5-year-old child. Another chance. Prince requested another chance when he whimpered, but you, David, decided no and proceeded to hurt him till death instead of opening that bag and calling 911 for assistance. Had you done that, maybe mercy could be another option. There's a saying that goes, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You sentenced Prince to life with no parole. Another chance. Your actions have imposed a life sentence on my family, but in turn, you want to one day be able to walk free. What a mockery that would be towards Prince and his family. Another chance. He whimpered for another chance at life. You said, shut him up and continue to beat him again until he was lifeless. Now you're whimpering, asking for another chance. Judge, we're asking you to shut him up. Another chance. To have life in prison doesn't stop your relationships. It doesn't inflict pain to your family. It only changes your address, where you would meet new friends, have visitations, able to send your mom a card or two, still have phone calls, eat 3 free meals a day, holidays, and guess what? You will still be able to play video games. But you made me, Prince, surrender all these choices. Another choice. To receive another chance to walk within the community would only impact additional pain to Prince's family. You could have received 6 to 30 for attempted murder, but instead you chose to ignore his plea after he whimpered, meaning he was still alive. You proceeded to make sure he was deceased and placed him in a dumpster. Unfortunately, here we are in the state of Wisconsin, where the death penalty is null and void. But you, David, chose to impose that penalty upon Prince anyway. You seem to have your own laws and now want them ignored? Again, Judge, life without parole. Another chance. We, Prince family, are not requesting you to throw your life, away, David's life away, just his freedom. He'll still have life, feelings, thoughts, etc. And we encourage him to make the best of it in his new world, as my family have to do in ours, without Prince. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Does that conclude the statements by the victims?
Yes.
Thank you. Attorney Jones.
Thank you. First of all, as a clerical matter, he has 275 days credit, Judge. You know, I frequently come to this court and I talk a lot during homicide cases when my clients are found guilty after a trial. And I frequently have to say that my clients maintain innocence. They've availed themselves of the system, and I believe in that system, and they're certainly entitled to do that. And I frequently talk about placing homicides on a spectrum, because we see a lot of them, and unfortunately to any victim's family in any homicide, it is the most horrific experience of their life. But we see a multitude of them and sort of have to put them on a continuum. When we look at this case, the facts of the case are as horrific as it gets. The actions of Mr. Patura are nothing short of evil, and I don't say that lightly at all. I don't know if that makes him evil, but it certainly means that his actions, I think, were. I can't speak to what's in somebody's heart. I certainly can't speak to what's at their core. What I can look at, though, is what distinguishes this case from other matters that I've had. The facts are horrific. There's absolutely nothing I'm going to say that is probably not likely going to offend the victim's family, and that's certainly not my intent. But Mr. Patura did plead guilty. Mr. Patura did take responsibility for his actions. I understand his comments to the PSI writer, and I understand his minimization, but ultimately he stood in this courtroom before Your Honor and did not avail himself of trial, did not put his family, Prince's family, through a trial. And whatever that measure of remorse and reflection that shows, at least it shows something. I don't know to what degree, but it does show something. And that's why I'm going to ask this court not to impose life without the chance of any parole. I don't, as the court notes, the law requires life, and the minimum is, you know, after 20 years. I'm not going to ask for 20. But I sit here and look at Mr. Patura, and he's 27 years old sitting here today. And I certainly don't know the answer, but when I look at the fact that for whatever reason he has no record, for whatever reason he was able to plead guilty and spare the family a trial, and for whatever reason he acted in the most egregious, evil manner that I've seen in my career. So what do we do? And I think at the end of the day, and I quite frankly commend the family for their forgiveness in a lot of ways, and their recognition of the reality of the situation. I'm going to ask the court to impose a life sentence with the chance of parole after 40 years. That puts Mr. Patura at age 67. And that only makes him eligible. And I want that, and I know the court knows that. This isn't saying he gets out in 40 years. But it says that we take a look. It says in 40 years, when Mr. Patura is of retirement age, that we take a look and we see if there's a reason to let him back out to live out whatever years he may or may not have left at that, or whatever years he will have left at that point. And maybe, and I don't know this, but maybe there's some contribution to society that can be made by Mr. Patura, both while he spends his time in prison and if he ever is released under my request. I can only hope that this isn't entirely blanketed with evil and that there is some sort of light, whatever that might be. And I'm going to ask the court to follow that recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Piatore, this is your opportunity if you wish to make a statement or an allocution to the court. Do you wish to make a statement, sir?
Yes.
Right. Please pull the microphone close to Mr. Piatore.
I agree with what the aunt said about with the death penalty. It is a shame that we don't have it here, because for my involvement, I feel that death would be right. But we only have life without parole, and I think that I should get life without parole for my involvement. And I know that goes against what Mr. Russell says, but regret and guilt, I had a lot of time to think about everything, and this shouldn't have happened. And if I had a chance to change it, I would, but we can't go back in time. We can't change things that have happened. All we can do is continue on forward, and Prince can't do that no more. But I can, and it ain't right. And I don't think the family would. I know they said that they, you know, to be completely honest, I'm surprised they didn't try to go at me 100%. And for what they did, you know, that's big of them, I'm not gonna lie. But if there's no possible way I should get parole. I don't think I should. I don't. But I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive myself. They show that they're capable of forgiving me, but I wouldn't be able to forgive me in that position. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. That's all I really have to say. I know it's not much, but that's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Piatore, at time of sentencing in this case, the court must look at the gravity of the offense that was committed. I have to look at your character and rehabilitative needs, as well as protection of the community, deterrence, and punishment. I must say, Mr. Piatore, that I've been a lawyer for a very long time and a judge now for a fair amount of time, and I don't recall a case that is as monstrous as this one. What happened on October 25th of 2023 that deprived Prince McCree, say his name, Prince McCree, of his life, of his future, of his love and his bond with his family members is unforgivable. The brutal, heinous beating of this 5-year-old child, an innocent, should never have taken place. All he wanted to do was be your friend. All he wanted to do was play Spider-Man, to be a superhero, to read books, to do the things that 5-year-olds do, play on the playground. According to everyone that's testified today, he looked up to you as his role model, like a big brother. And in his home, in his safe zone, what did you do? But Prince came to the basement, and you and Eric took his life. The pre-sentence report does reflect that the defendant does minimize his involvement in all of this, and I think that may be just simply a way to cope. I don't know. I did have the opportunity, and the record should reflect, and both lawyers know this, to actually review the statements that Mr. Piatura gave. I saw the recordings, and in particular, in the second statement, he did actually tell what he had done. Mr. Piatura, you played a significant role in depriving this child of his life. In the second interview in particular, you involved yourself and you told police about what you did, how you saw Eric choking this child to the point of unconsciousness. But instead of stopping Eric, instead of saying, no, this is not the way that we treat our friends, this is not the way that we treat a 5-year-old, a child, you didn't do that. You got involved with this homicide. When the child lost consciousness, you worked with Eric in order to wrap up and bind the child's body and limbs. You put duct tape on this child. He's 5 years old. You punched the child in the head and you stuffed his mouth full of a rag so he couldn't breathe. You took the life from him and you grabbed a 30-pound barbell and dropped it on his head when he whimpered. He was gagged, he was taped, and he was placed into the indignity of a garbage bag. As you and Eric are carrying this child up the stairs, he whimpers again. And then you guys grab a golf club where your DNA is on that golf club, and you strike this child repeatedly in the head, in the abdomen, and in the genitalia. And when the child whimpered as you all took him outside, you dropped a bird bath pedestal, a cement pedestal on this child's head, and then discarded his body as if he were a piece of trash. I saw the pictures of the injuries to Prince, and it pains me to think of how that little boy suffered. It pains me to think of the fact that he didn't die right away. If this had to happen to him, that he suffered, he was tortured. It's inexplicable that he had all of these multiple blunt force injuries inflicted upon him and that he died as well of asphyxiation. The only word that I know is inexcusable. The depravity of Prince's death weighs heavy on my mind. Mr. Piatura, you, along with your co-actor, committed a series of brutal assaults on this young boy, acts that showed complete and utter disregard for human dignity and for life. Hitting one with a golf club, choking them, dropping a barbell on his head, binding him with his limbs with duct tape, stuffing a rag in his mouth as the child whimpered, dropping a bird bath on his head to silence him. Those acts are sheer evil. Your behavior was perverse. It lacked any sense of moral decency. The loss of this little boy is inexplicable, and it happened at your hands. Looking at you, Mr. Piatura, I read with interest the pre-sentence because I tried to think to myself, how on earth can someone get to the point of doing this, something so heinous to a 5-year-old child? You are now 27 years old. You've had the privilege of a high school education. Well, you've had some mental health issues and perhaps are on the autism spectrum. And you didn't have the best of childhood, but you were provided for. Your mother took care of you. You had no juvenile or criminal convictions prior to this, albeit you did have some arrest. I don't know morally why you just didn't stop and say, hey, you know what? Despite the bad things that I've been through in my life, why am I allowing bad things to happen to Prince, another child? To your credit, you did enter a guilty plea in this case, and you saved the family having to sit and listen to this in the context of a jury trial, and that would have been brutal. But then when it came to talking to the pre-sentence writer, you backed away from your involvement in this case. And you even laid blame at the feet of the parents of the child, which is totally unfair. The family members in the victim impact statements that I heard here in court today show that this young boy was loved. He was cheerful, he was delightful. And I read also some other victim impact statements that were in the court file, and in a couple of those it said, you know, parents attempt in every possible way to keep their babies safe from any harm, danger, or strangers. You weren't a stranger to Prince. You were his comrade, his little guy, his person that he wanted to be with, to play video games with. He didn't deserve to suffer like this, Mr. Piatura. It's caused so much pain and so much heartache. I can see it in the faces of all that are here today. And I just cringe at the thought that this poor baby was found in a dumpster. He was brutally murdered by you, and then you had the chutzpah, the audacity to walk around with the family of Prince and pretend that you were searching for his body, all the time knowing where he was, all the time knowing what you did. I don't know. This kind of crime tears apart not only the family of Prince McCree and the individuals who loved him, it hurts their hearts, but it tears apart our community. There has to be some general deterrence in this particular case, a message to the community that children, including Prince McCree, are the future of this world. You know, Prince might have become a leader in our community tomorrow. He could have been a doctor. He might have been a fireman. He might have been an engineer. He could have been anything that he wanted to be if he set his mind to it. But because of your actions, Mr. Piatura, we will never know or see Prince realize his full potential in life. But I want to say to the family that I think there's an important legacy about all of this. I read with interest in the newspaper that at 5 years old, that because of Prince's death, that there are now purple alerts to look for children, and that filled in the gaps with amber alerts. And my recollection about Prince from the things that I read is that, you know, he liked Spider-Man. Spider-Man had extraordinary powers that were to be used for good. And through this law and the things that happen, Prince has done something good for somebody else. And that will be part of his legacy. Not only will his family members hold him close in their hearts, but he will be remembered for the bipartisan bill signed into law by Governor Evers, allowing emergency alerts for missing children who do not meet the criteria for Amber Alerts. So I think there is a legacy, But, Mr. Piator, I think you said it as well as anybody, to be frank with you. There cannot be forgiveness in this particular case. The community has to be protected from you and from your actions. Mr. Piatora, it is the sentence of this court under the totality of the circumstances to punish you that you spend the rest of your life on count 1, first-degree intentional homicide, in prison. You will not be eligible for release on extended supervision. You knew that, and I actually give you credit for recognizing that. If there's any peace at all to be given to the family, at least, Mr. Piatora, in a dignified way, you recognize the gravity of what you did. Sir, the time that you're confined in prison can be extended if you violate any prison regulation or if you refuse or neglect to perform any required or assigned duties. If your time in prison is extended under this bad time provision, you could be required to serve up to the total length of your sentence in prison. You will be serving the total of your sentence in prison. The penalties that can be imposed by the Department of Corrections are 10 days for the first offense, 20 days for the second offense, and 40 days for the third and each subsequent offense. In addition, if you are placed in adjustment, program, or controlled segregation status, your term of confinement can be extended by a number of days equal to 50% of the number of days that you spend in adjustment, program, or controlled segregation status. Finally, if while you're in prison, you file a lawsuit which the court finds to be filed for a malicious purpose or solely to harass the party against whom it is filed, or if you testify falsely or otherwise knowingly offer false evidence or provide false information to the court in that lawsuit, the court can order that your term of confinement be extended up to the total length of your sentence. You will not be eligible for extended supervision where there are conditions that will be set. And this written explanation of determinate life sentence sets forth the petition rights for release on extended supervision, but you are not eligible. Therefore, I will not read those to you. Mr. Piatora, I also have to tell you that while you are in the care, custody, and control of the prison system, it is my hope that you will participate in the following programming and or assessments. I hope that you have a mental health evaluation to find out why on earth that you did this. You should follow up with any treatment and care that is recommended for you, including taking prescribed medications. You must also undergo an alcohol or drug assessment and comply with all recommended treatment and care, and attend other treatment and counseling programs as determined appropriate for you. Further, you should undergo and complete a course in Thinking for a Change. How to change your mindset so that you can comport your behavior with the standards that are expected of people who are actually in our society. You are to have absolutely, positively no contact with the parents or family members, that is anyone from Prince McCree's family. No contact means in person, no contact means by letter, no contact means over the telephone, by internet, by text, tweet, or any way, shape, or form. No contact. That is the only way that these folks will be able to move forward with their lives and have some peace. Further, sir, you are to have no contact with firearms. I will order DOC to collect any monetary amounts ordered today, which include giving a sample of your DNA to the state crime lab and paying the DNA surcharge, as well as paying all mandatory court costs. Was there any restitution requested?
I don't believe so.
Was there restitution requested from the advocate?
No.
Restitution shall be set at 0. So DOC shall collect any monetary amounts ordered today for those court costs as provided in section 973.05 sub 4 sub B and 973.20 while you are in their care, custody, and control from your accounts. Any monetary amounts that remain unpaid when the sentence is completed, which will be a life sentence, would be reduced to a civil judgment against the defendant for unpaid balances, and then collection could proceed under Section 71.935 of the statutes, as well as through other civil collection means. Mr. Piatora, this is a life sentence. Therefore, while I recognize that you have 275 days of pretrial incarceration credit, that does not get awarded to you. It is just simply notated. Sir, you have been convicted of a felony offense. Therefore, you may never possess a firearm at any time in the future. Section 941.29 of the Wisconsin statutes makes it another felony for anyone who has been convicted of a felony to ever possess a firearm, carrying with it its own 10-year period of imprisonment or $25,000 fine or both. Sir, do you understand you may never possess a firearm?
Yes.
In addition, due to the felony conviction, you are prohibited forever from possessing body armor, ammunition, and explosives. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And finally, sir, you are not allowed to vote until your voting rights have been restored by the Department of Corrections if you are ever discharged from this sentence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
This case leaves me so disturbed, and it leaves me so saddened because the potential for one life is extinguished and the other life is going away for the rest of his. We as a community need to hug our children. We need to take our kids and tell them that they are good and give them examples so that they can live a good life and know how to treat others with dignity, respect, and have that moral compass that hopefully will ensure, given this sentence, Mr. Piatora, that other people will learn that this can never repeat itself again. That's the message that I want sent to the community, that Prince McCree's life was valued, and that unfortunately you've taken that away from not only his family but our community. And in spite of that, though, Mr. Piatora, you're going to live the rest of your days out in the Wisconsin State Prison System. All right. Mr. Piatora, if you are dissatisfied with the sentence that the court has imposed today, you have 20 days to appeal my decision. I'd ask that the CR 233 form be filled out and filed with the court. Sir, you are advised that you have the right to seek the assistance of the Office of the State Public Defender in prosecuting any post-conviction motion and or appeal should you wish to do so. And if the voting rights admonition form is not on file, it should be signed and filed today.
It will be.
Are there any questions from the state as to the sentence imposed?
No.
Attorney Jones, do you have any questions about the sentence imposed?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Piatora, do you have any questions, sir?
No.
Right. Then at this point in time, I'm going to ask that the family of Prince McCree please peacefully rise up, and you're to leave the courtroom in an orderly manner with the victim advocate. Oh, the written next. Right. And as soon as they clear the hallway, if the rest of the public as well as the media wish to leave, that's fine. I just want them to have a chance to actually get down the elevators if at all possible, or to wait for the district attorney to speak with the victim's family, okay?
Left leg. Stand up.
All right, guys. So there you have it. The judge did the right thing, in my opinion. This is one of those cases where, listen, I have always said, now, I am a proponent that, okay, so let me couch this. I'm a proponent of life with parole always being available, regardless of what the crime is. That does not mean you're granted parole. The reason why is because most of the time, people that do crimes, even as heinous as what was done in this case, there's reasons behind it. There's opportunities to work. There's opportunities for reform. There should be an opportunity for him to go out and have the ability to integrate his life in a way. Maybe he never gets out for freedom, but maybe he lives in a halfway house. He has to return to, he always has to return to an institution of some kind. But I feel like that if you're going to just lock someone up, throw them away, and give them no hope to be able to better themselves or make something of themselves, to me, that is, I understand what he did is terrible, but what he now needs to do, in my opinion, and what our system should be geared for, is reform yourself and live in memory of. And what do I mean by live in memory of? I mean, you took a life in the most heinous way possible. Obviously, you're living with that regret. Obviously, you now have you have problems. If you never deal with your problems and you decide, I'm going to go into the institution and I'm going to live like a criminal for the rest of my life, and I'm going to have a goal of victimizing other people for forever and ever, then fine, you never get a chance to get out. But if you go in and you put in a hard work and you get into counseling and you take advantage of services and you reform yourself, you can then begin to stand for something, whether it's figuring out a way to stand for a law, going around and talking to other people, going around and talking to parents, and working in memory of Prince in this case, making something better of yourself as much as you can to show that, listen, he didn't die in vain. Yes, he died, but as a result of his death, something good came of me, and I was able to go help and reach other people, whether it's reaching young kids to keep them out of prison, whether it's, alerting parents to the dangers of having people like him around their children, whatever it is. But you should be living in memoriam of, and that should be a huge part, in my opinion, in the correction system that we have, is saying, listen, you need to figure out how you're going to honor your victim, and you need to figure out what you're going to do, and that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Even if you get out, and in cases like these, he should never be able to leave the system. He should always have the system in his life. But if he puts in the hard work and he's 67, 68, 69 years old, and he's put in that hard work and he's done things that he, should he have the opportunity to come out and do something with his life in memoriam of his victim, a parole board should be able to consider that. But in a case like this, it's hard to feel sorry for him. I don't want you to cross this up with, hey, I feel sorry that this guy got life without parole. I think the judge in this case, it's sickening. If I was the judge, I would, and I had the opportunity to give him life without parole, I'm throwing the max down. There's no case better than this. Now, the one thing is that, for me, I think if I'm his defense attorney, the way I would be approaching this is, he's 27 years old. He's got some defects, but he obviously feels bad. He obviously sat there in front of the court and said, I deserve life. Lock me up. I've got problems. So when for me, I think you need to bring an expert in to say, and again, I don't understand why this doesn't get done. It's probably resources, but I think resources should be unlimited when you're talking about the criminal defense of someone, because the state has unlimited resources. So should the defense. And that way it evens it up, and you get assigned an attorney, and they can do everything necessary to make sure that your case gets presented and your story gets presented and all the facts and circumstances get presented to the court so they can assess what needs to be done, what your plan is, and how you can reform yourself and correct yourself while at the same time being punished, in going through that. But to me, there's an element in this case to him following along with this kid. If you heard in the introduction to the background here, this kid, this 16-year-old kid who has yet to be sentenced and has yet to plead guilty, This guy's going around. He stabbed 3 people prior to doing what they did here. He's the one who initiated this entire situation. Now, this kid followed along. He's 27 years old, but if you look at him, you can tell he's a troubled guy. He's got problems. And he got led astray here to a degree, but obviously he should have stopped this, but he didn't. But there's a psychological situation that's going on with him that really should be explored. But it shows there is something there. There is some humanity there because he pled guilty. He has remorse, and that should be assessed and looked into to say, okay, what can we do with that? Because what's happened here is this young man's dead. He never gets a chance to live. But in his place is a guy now who we are now aware of. We are now aware has some major issues. So even if it's just, hey, he goes through therapy and we can understand that he can never be cured. There's nothing we could do with him but institutionalize him and keep him in an institution, and he could perhaps move from maybe max to minimum to a camp environment, maybe to and he can live better within the system. But it's important we understand what went into this young man to do this. And then the other child, who's a child, he's 16 years old, who did this, we need to understand him as well, because his cerebral cortex isn't completely developed. So he's got all the problems of the situation that when you have youth that commit crimes, he's clearly not connected with the consequences. He's clearly reacting. He's clearly got problems. And he's clearly, in my opinion, it indicates that he's been a victim himself. So it's like understanding these things and then dealing with the problems and then allowing their stories to be told, allowing the people that created the monsters in them to be held accountable, I think is another aspect of the system. So lots of different things. But anyways, you put in the comments what you think, guys. I appreciate you watching. Hard case to watch. Heart goes out to Prince McCree's family. I hope they feel like there's a piece of justice here. There's still more justice to delve out, and it will be done, I'm sure. So with that said, guys, look forward to more presentations such as these. And until then, guys, let justice prevail, and I'll talk to you soon.